All right, Brock, welcome to the Fearless Podcast.
Glad to be here.
So, y'all, I'll give you a little bit of backstory here. I was at work and a YouTube popped up, and it was this video of Brock saying how he went carnivore and lost like 80 pounds in like 6 months. And I was like, wow, this is a tractor guy. This is kind of like our people. Here's another, I just had Pete B on, and it was kind of like the same thing. We follow Pete B and all that stuff. And then he pops up with this carnivore success video. And I'm like, this, we talked about it yesterday in the Carrie Mann interview, this carnivore tsunami that I think is much more powerful than this homestead tsunami that's going on when you're watching all this real time evidence of the success that people are having through this incredibly simplistic way of eating. I wanted to have you on to document, talk about this, and maybe you could tell us, one, how were you exposed to the carnivore diet? What made you want to try it? And then maybe talk us through your success on the carnivore diet.
Sure. Well, I never thought I would be making videos on my YouTube channel about the carnivore diet because that's not what I started it to do. But sometimes when something's happening for you that seems powerful and positive like this, you feel like same as I watched your interview with Pete, and I was vegetarian for a long time. That happened because my mother got diabetes, and I said, I want to learn how to be healthier. And that journey of learning and trying to understand human health and how I could live a healthier life led me to health, whole foods, vegetables, vegetarianism. And that was the first step for me. And I did that for years and years, and it didn't serve me. I didn't like it. It did not make me healthier. And I struggled with it. And then I gained a lot of weight. I got all the way up to 288 pounds. And I went to the doctor for something else, and they said, your blood pressure's 155 or whatever the number was. They're like, you need to be on blood pressure medicine. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. They said, well, if you don't get it down, this is a silent killer. And you're going to not feel any symptoms until you've done serious damage to your heart, maybe have a heart attack or a stroke. You've got to do something about this. And he wrote me a prescription and sent it with me, and I didn't take it. And so I think it's okay to say, I'm going to deal with this myself unless you don't deal with it. So what I did after that was waited 2 years of taking minor tries at it and not having any results. And my wife checked my blood pressure. It was still over 150 2 years later. And I said, I've done real damage. So I put a video out on my YouTube channel. I said, guys, I'm 288 pounds. My blood pressure's high. I'm making a commitment right now that within 6 months, I will either solve this myself or I will take the medication. And that was my impetus to get started. Now, the first place I heard about it was Dr. Jordan Peterson. I'm a huge Jordan Peterson fan. We all hear his story and go, great for him, that's a little extreme. But then it plants a seed, and that's how I first got the idea to do it.
And that's what I think we're seeing. We're seeing almost everybody points to Jordan Peterson. Most people will point to Sean Baker being on Joe Rogan. And then as these videos drop, as our video drop, and then Carrie Mann comes along, and then now he's doing this documentary, and then Pete's video drops, then your video drops, we're reaching, even if it's anecdotal, we're reaching like a titration point where it's a force to be reckoned with. And all of this propaganda from the food pyramid and eat a balanced diet and the breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and all this Kellogg Foundation and Harvey Kellogg and Loma Linda, all this stuff is finally the pushback, and the mountain of evidence is here. Like Dr. Baker has Rivero, and those are all carnivore docs basically. and they're starting to compile this evidence. And I think what that's going to do, it's going to encourage even more people that have been skeptical. I was not skeptical about carnivore because I was very familiar with the Atkins diet, and so I was familiar with ketosis. I had done Atkins in my 20s when I was lifting a lot and had a lot of success with it. So I didn't buy into the cholesterol thing, and I understood the importance of protein. It's just when you get married and you have family events, like either it's your like with your mom, or for me it was with my wife and she was plant-based and all these different things. um, Once you navigate through all that and find the success that is carnivore and the immediate success, that's what I think is beautiful about it. Is the only thing better than simplicity is the immediacy that you start to have positive results. Brock, how soon was it when you implemented carnivore that you started to see a move in the right direction?
So I talked about my blood pressure being at 150. Like 140 is where they start to push you to medicine. 130 is like the warning area. I went from 150, top number, and I know there's more numbers that matter, but that top number went from 150 to 120 in about 3 weeks. And that's
Wow.
dramatic. And that's
Yeah.
life changing in 3 weeks. And then there, within that, I'm losing weight, but I've lost weight before. Like, what you're looking for is sustainability and something that affects your entire body in a healthy way. But my weight loss has been pretty steady throughout the entire time. And within, I think at about the 3 month mark, I had like 3 weeks with no weight loss, but I just didn't even worry about it. But yeah, I saw the most important result to me, which was the blood pressure. That happened very quickly.
Yeah.
And you study this stuff, you watch the videos, you listen to testimonials from people, and you start to understand the number of underlying conditions you can treat with this way of eating and eliminating carbohydrates and eliminating processed foods, from whether it's, diabetes or your liver or all these different arthritis, the whole list of problems. When you see your problem go away that quickly, it's hard to deny it. And the biggest thing for me about carnivore compared to whole food plant-based is that with the plant-based, you have to supplement. I think
Yeah.
anyone who's the proponent of that will tell you you need this and this and this and this, or you've got to eat huge amounts of these leafy vegetables. And I hated every minute of being plant-based. I didn't enjoy it like I do this lifestyle.
So within 3 weeks, you saw dramatic positive results. And once you start having these demonstrable positive results, there's your motivation to stay the course. So now you're what, 6 months in?
Yeah, it's been 6 months and maybe 3 weeks, and I am down 82 pounds from 288 to 206.
So predominantly, what does your diet consist of right now?
So I've been buying a half a cow at a time from a local farmer. Got a separate deep freeze for this local beef, and he brings it in like 5 big sacks, and it's all mixed. And I just dump it in the freezer every day. I go in and I grab 2 packages of that meat, and I don't really pay attention to what it is. It could be a roast and some ribs. It could be hamburgers and steak. And I thaw those 2 packages out. And one's breakfast and one's dinner.
So
And
you're doing like a potluck.
yeah, so if I just eat the beef from those cows, and I like all of it. So, and I don't want to eat all the steak first and then say all I've got for the next month is this roast or whatever I didn't pick. So I just grab 2 packages of meat. One's breakfast, one's dinner. I
Now, what
also I have mixed feelings on coffee. I kind of think I'd be smart if I weaned off the coffee, but right now I'm having about 5 cups of black coffee a day.
Sure. And I was a big coffee guy. Everybody else still drinks a lot of coffee. I don't like. I used to have 2 or 3 cups a day, but I haven't had a cup of coffee in probably a week. And I was doing the carnivore coffee with like 12 egg yolks, you know, and I would use a teaspoon of honey. But I haven't had coffee in like well over a week. So, and I don't feel like I need it. Um, and I like coffee too. But so you're just
So
kind of doing a random 2 meals.
yeah, and I don't try to regulate it. Like I've got a fasting app on my phone. I've went through periods of trial and error. Let's see what works. You know, I did the intermittent fasting thing. I think if my weight loss was stalled, I would reduce my eating window, but it's not. I never limit portions. Like if I want 5 steaks today, then I'm going to have 5 steaks, but I
Right?
usually don't. And back to the coffee real quick. When I started, I said, I'm going cold turkey. Nothing but just this beef. I'm doing it the way Jordan Peterson did it or the way his daughter did it, the lion diet. And I'm just having steak and I'm having liver and just hardcore. Like I love the tongue and the heart and all those types of things too. And went no coffee, no caffeine, heart, and did that for like a full month. And I never felt drowsy or anything. I had one trip where I had to go 12 hours and didn't drive 12 hours, got there at 2 in the morning and drank some coffee. And that got me kind of hooked again. But if you can
Sure.
go without it, you don't need it. That's for sure. But I crave the taste of coffee and probably the caffeine, but I crave it whenever I sit down with that steak. And I would
Yeah.
never have touched a black coffee in my life. Thought coffee is something nasty that if you put like a little bit of it in with a lot of milk and sugar, then it's
Uh,
drinkable. And now just black coffee, that's my treat that I give myself.
wow. Check that out. That's my wife's thing. That's the only thing she does. She is super hardcore, but she drinks coffee, black. I think she puts a little bit of cinnamon in it, but she doesn't put any sugar in it or anything like that. And that is what she calls. She's like, "This is my treat." She drinks like a couple cups a day, and that's like her jam. But that's what I like to talk about. Is one, I say if you do it and you try it, be consistent, be hardcore in the beginning because you're going to the success you have is what's going to keep you on it. And then I think sustainability is important. So if you get to a point where you think you have to, like we've experimented with different types of uh, carnivore or keto type cheese stuff. So like as long as it's animal based, doing like we did like a carnivore pizza where the pizza dough part is like cheese and egg yolks or something, and it was really good. And if that's what it takes to, if you just need to change it up a little bit, but I always feel the best on red meat. Like I've completely cut out the pork. I was originally doing pork and beef, and I felt the best on the beef. And when I try doing some of these other creations, I just don't. I don't feel bad. I still have a lot of the positive effects, but I don't feel great when I'm on the red meat. I feel great.
And what I worry about with that is if you start eating a lot of things that taste like pizza, it that you hear people say kind of it's going to cause you to crave more. Like if you drink diet soda and it's sweet, you're going to start craving more sweet things.
Right.
And so I'm trying to keep those temptations out, but I'm not perfect. If I'm going somewhere and I need a snack on this road trip or something, like some of the gas stations will have Slim Jims that are very low in carbohydrates, and that's a processed food. Or like sometimes I'll eat hot dogs, that's a processed food,
Yeah.
but it's not carbohydrates. Like we don't have to be perfect. But my favorite thing to do, so I'm almost all beef, but probably once or twice a week, I go over to the rib crib and I have a full slab. It's dry rub only on it, no
Oh,
sauce. There might be some carbs in that, but like it's all right.
baby. Yeah, yeah. I love ribs. Yeah. So you're down about 80 pounds. Your first initial positive health result was healthy blood pressure. Have there been any other, uh, say, ailments or anything that maybe something that you didn't notice that you had? And then since you went carnivore, it's kind of alleviated?
Yeah, so nothing that sounds medical or anything, but what I would say is if you've ever been like sleep deprived and you're walking around and you don't realize it, but maybe your eyes are about like this and you're kind of dragging and it's like, yeah, okay. And then now I'm like, my eyes, it feels like my eyes are wide open and I just am excited to do things. And it comes in stages. Like after 6 months, I would have told you this is going great and I'm happy with it. But then in the last 3 weeks, I've started having the urge to run. And I haven't ran in 10 years or more, but I've been going on walks. I'm using the Apple Watch because I can be motivated by numbers and little targets and stuff. And it tracks things like your VO2 max, which is like a measure of how efficiently your body is utilizing oxygen in your muscles, or your cardiovascular health. Well, it should be between 28 and 38. And mine was like 24. And now it's like 26.8. So I've raised my cardiovascular health number, or that VO2 max, by like 3 points. And I'm this close to what's considered healthy. And so I've been going on walks that if you do at least 30 minutes, your Apple Watch will tell you your VO2 max. So I've been doing 30 minutes at this point without trying to talk myself into it. I'm just jogging about half of it. And it just wouldn't have happened before.
That is cool. Yeah. What I'm doing is, because of my shoulder issue, I'm still trying to rehabilitate it. And because I used to lift a lot and I really enjoyed it, and I would be super hardcore and, big, heavy kettlebell, and I just can't do that stuff anymore. So I've started getting back into rubber bands, but the shoulder still, I can do it. It doesn't hurt, but it doesn't feel good. Like when you work out and you feel good, it doesn't feel good. So now I'm just doing pool exercises in the pool, and I'm just doing all different kinds of shoulder rotations and exercises. And that has been dramatic. I've been feeling really good. And the really awesome thing about carnivore, if you ever were a hardcore lifter, you lift and you feel sore. And that was always a good feeling. But when you lifted really hard and you felt really sore, a lot of times you'd have to take a day off. Well, now I can work out very hard. I can get full exhaustion, hypertrophy, whatever you want to call it, in the shoulder. And by the next day, it's completely gone. Like no soreness. The recovery rate on carnivore is kind of hard to explain. And I know Dr. Chafee talks a lot about it. And some of the stuff he says really sounded unbelievable, but I've experienced it, that you can train really hard, and just because of, you're eating nutrient dense and, all the other positive benefits of carnivore, your recovery rate is incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to tell you another reason that I started this and how it's affecting me right now. So what I do for a living is make YouTube videos about working outdoors on my property. Sounds like a great job. It's the best job I could ever have. It's perfect for my personality. Here's the problem. You have to do the work. So if today I'm splitting wood outside and I get the wood out there, I get the splitter out there, I get the chainsaw fueled up, and I'm like, I'm exhausted, I'm going to go sit down. I haven't even split any wood yet. It doesn't work. I have to have that stamina. And the other thing is I have to sit here and talk to this camera, and I don't script and I don't plan. So I need to be mentally sharp and physically capable. And I'm looking at my neighbor who is 84 years old, I think, and he keeps his yard mowed and weed eated, and he still goes out there and he's working on an old car. And I'm like, if I'm 43 and it wears me out going back to get my camera to film and I want to take a break, where am I going to be at 84 if I'm still here? Am I going to be out weed eating? And the answer is no. And I said, to do what I do for a living, I can't just take my health for granted. And I can tell a difference in when I sit down with the camera and I say, I'm going to tell a 15-minute story without a script and just talk. I'm sharper. And that's,
then you have to do all that work, and then you have to sit back behind the computer and edit all of it, which probably takes more time than the time it took you to actually film it and all that stuff.
Yeah, you have to be a narcissist and you have to enjoy the process to have YouTube be your job. That's for sure.
That's funny. That's pretty. There's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah. But I
Okay,
felt like I
so
was faking it whenever I wanted to cut firewood, and I did cut firewood, but I would do one basket and be like, well, thanks for watching. When a basket's a third of a cord, I'm like, I should be able to cut a cord of wood today. And that's the video. You know what I mean? Like
yeah, cool.
that working outdoors, I think that's the best therapy you can have for me, to just be outside in the sun, running a piece of equipment,
I
like
completely
away
agree.
from all the stress and not
Yeah.
listening to the news, and just that's what that's what I enjoy doing. And you can't do it if you're in too bad of health.
No, and what I do now, I mean, we've had this farm, and thank the Lord for my boys. I was not able to do anything. I could just about work and put in a 10-hour day or whatever, and I'd come home and get in the recliner and then crawl to bed and then get up and do it all over again. But I work 4 days, and then I'm on the farm for Friday, Saturday, and then we have church and everything all day Sunday. But now all day Friday, I'm carrying 40-pound feed bags, and that's part of my workout too. I'll put a feed bag even under my bad arm, under both arms, and I purposely walk it from. I park the truck at the front of the property, and I walk it to wherever I have to take it. And then we just ordered one of these weight sleds. So I'm going to start doing some weight sled training. And this way, when we get the animal feed, I'm just going to stack it on the weight sled and then either pull it or push it around the property. But I completely agree with you. This outdoor lifestyle and working outside is exponentially incredible. And one thing that I've experienced is carnivores. And I heard this was somebody's tagline. It might have been Carrie Mann's tagline at the beginning or something. Carnivores don't sunburn. Or there might even have been a podcast called Carnivores Don't Sunburn. I do not sunburn. I have tried. I have purposely tried. I've worked outside, full sun, 105 degrees for a whole entire day, and I don't sunburn anymore at all. Like, I don't even get red.
Yeah, so I'm obsessive about always being working on something, and I never seek out recreation. And that's a little bit of a sore topic with my wife. And she's kind of laid down the law that we're taking a cruise in August. And it was hard for me to
Awesome.
relax into that idea, but we're doing it. And so now I was like, well, if I'm going to be there, I might as well enjoy this. So I've been trying to get a tan, and I've lost all this weight, and I've been outside working in the sun. I can say I haven't sunburned. So I hadn't really heard that comment before, but it's not happening to me.
And I'm telling you, I've tried. Like, so I'm off Friday, Saturday, and I'll work full sun both days in a row on purpose with the sole intention of like I'm getting blasted and sunburn. I've not, and I used to sunburn. Um, so you guys are going on a cruise.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going
You think
7 days.
that
I'm
is
still
great.
halfway excited, and I'm halfway thinking I publish every day, year round, no matter what. I publish a video. What's my audience going to do without me for a week? I bet they'll be all right. They probably need a break
Well,
from
what
me.
you're going to do is you're just going to sandbag. You have till you got a couple weeks, right? So you're just going to sandbag a video a week and then upload it and
Yeah.
set it to go live while you're on vacation. And then you're
So here's one. Like vitamins, vitamin D. The only way we get vitamin D, you can take vitamin D. Your body doesn't really utilize it very well. The best way to get vitamin D is through the sun. A lot of people are freaked out. Sunscreen, like the sun's going to kill you. You're going to get skin cancer. I I don't know. I could be wrong, but I trust my gut on things. And I feel like people have always spent their time in the sun. People used to, there was no other way to live except to be outside all the time throughout most of human history. And I bet there's more skin cancer now. So I bet it's a combination of putting chemicals on your skin, being exposed to chemicals. And it's like if you were to put a chemical on something and then put that thing in the oven. Like I would much rather be exposed to skin than be exposed to a skincare agent. So if the skin is what takes me down at the end of it, if the sun is what takes me down, then I guess that's what I got. But I think the more you can get, the better as far as the sun.
Yeah, I totally think that the skin stuff and sunburn is totally seed oils. I think it's just, we're ingesting them in everything and in a lot of stuff that we don't even know that they shouldn't even, like, you can look at ice cream now, and ice cream will have 3 to 4 different kinds of seed oils. And I'm like, man, I remember when ice cream was heavy cream, sugar, and eggs, and whatever like whether it's vanilla or whatever. Now ice cream is like 80 ingredients, and it's just all this ultra processed stuff is what's like killing everybody. And that's why the sunburn, and it directly leads into skin cancer. It's coming from the food. And that's why I think it's fascinating now is I can work, and for my job, I'm outside all day long. I'm on roofs. I'm up and down ladders. And I was in the sun all day today. I do not burn.
Yeah, I think it's the foods we eat, the things we put in our body, and then especially for women, the modern thing is you have to be putting all these chemicals on your skin all the time, and your skin is your largest organ. And I just can't see a scenario where that's good for you. And then yeah, all the preservatives and all the things that have to be added to food so that it doesn't go bad
Yeah.
is throughout our history, we've never been exposed to that. So you want to talk about long-term studies on is carnivore healthy? Have we done long-term studies? Well, like have we done long-term studies on any of this stuff that's never been part of the human diet before? Like I mentioned in my video, I saw an ad, and this was just like a meme thing that was made, and it said like 80 years ago, here's an ad for like a circus thing, world's fattest man, and he weighed like 380 pounds or something. I'm like, you don't have to walk around Walmart for 2 minutes to see people that are bigger than that. It used to
Yeah.
be just a really bizarre thing when someone was that obese. And now it's as if we want to label that as a lack of willpower. Well, none of us have willpower against true addictions. And these foods are designed to be addictive. And I don't want to be hateful towards a person who works at Coca-Cola and their job is to sell Coca-Cola, but they have a responsibility to their employer and their shareholders to make the product addictive, I guess. On an
Yeah.
individual level, I don't want to, but the result is we're producing things that are just addictive, and it's everywhere, it's all the time. It's so normalized that there's like a peer pressure that if you go somewhere, I went out to eat with people last night and they're like, "You're not going to have any dinner rolls?"
Right.
Like, no, I'm not.
Well, it's funny. Matt Walsh he's like a snarky guy, and he points stuff out, Captain Obvious. And it was something about a fat person. And there are all these weird fat influencers that will just purposely eat all this huge gobs of grotesque food, which is gross. But he reacted to some person that was talking about food and losing weight, and he made this trope about exercise more and eat less. And on a 30,000-foot level, I kind of understood what he was saying, but he was completely overlooking and minimizing the fact that the predominance of our food is ultra processed, highly addictive by design on the molecular level. And it's not as simple as exercising more and eating less. I was overweight. I didn't even have an extra 1 or 2 inches around my waistline. I felt terrible. I used to love to exercise. And, you know, it really is just like you were saying, we really shouldn't diminish how addictive this food is designed to be. It's more addictive than crack, and it's more destructive than crack. Um, like we were talking about earlier with high blood pressure, the two biggest killers are cardiac disease and diabetes. Basically, they're the two biggest killers. They're associated risk factors with both of those things are like massive, and that's exclusively tied to your weight and these foods that we're eating.
Yeah. So if you're watching this right now and you currently today you weigh 300 or 400 pounds and you feel hopeless and helpless, it's not your fault. You're not a weak individual. We're all weak if we're addicted to something. It's it's the system that we're in. That's why the majority of people are currently obese, and a lot of the ones who aren't are what they call skinny fat, where you've got maybe some unhealthiness and the fat around your organs and stuff. So it's not your fault, but to beat it, you're going to have to remove your cravings for that. By if you can make it through a period of time without it, you can curb those cravings. I think about with our kids a lot. So my kids are grown, and I'm not going to dictate to my grandkids or to my kids what they can do with the grandkids. But I think about it now. If I had young kids, I would not be starting them off with cookies as a reward. We're teaching them cookies are a reward in that way that some of these people like Dr. Ken Berry, who I follow so closely, and he raises his children carnivore, and they're never going to have to develop an addiction to these kind of processed sugary foods and then get past it. They're going to skip that step. And I think that's a blessing we could give our kids.
So what does your family think about the carnivore diet? What's their feedback on it?
Oh, they don't have any interest at all. My kids, I have two kids that are still at home. They're 16 and 18. They've got those killer metabolisms. They're not worried about it.
Yeah.
Nobody in my house has an interest, and they've seen me go through the vegetarian thing, and I've done long water fast and long juice fast, and I've yo-yoed before. And I said before, I was miserable when I was forcing myself to drink green juice for breakfast and lunch, and then a vegetarian dinner. I hated that life. And they've seen me and they think, oh yeah, that's just dad. He's weird about food.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but now, like my son who's 18, he's been an athlete his whole life, and he's been playing ball and into sports. And now that he's graduated from school, he's doing all this active stuff, and he's out playing disc golf, and he's like, hey, you should do this with me. And he thinks it's pretty cool that to see the difference in me whenever I can go out and do something with him. But none of them are facing a problem right now at my house where they're motivated like I am.
A lot of times you have to have a health crisis to respond to it, to be motivated, which the hope and the goal is to help people avoid that. But, the beauty of my shoulder issue is it keeps me honest, because if I start to cheat, this thing will start to feel nasty, and, I don't sleep as good, and then it feels even worse. So sometimes your biggest challenge is what's actually helping you achieve victory, because it's just a reminder, like, hey, you can't eat that. You don't get to do that, So that's where you can turn. Yeah, that's where you can turn trying to think of the saying, but where the problem is part of the solution.
So, and back to your question about the family thing, there are people that I would like to see benefit from this the same way I have, people that I know. And Dr. Berry talks about this too, that you cannot jump on this diet and then run around and beat everyone over the head with it and try to force them onto it. But go lose 100 pounds and start jogging and get a tan and show up revitalized and do things you never would have done before. And people are going to stop you and go, "What'd you do?" And that's how, if you've got someone at home that says you can do carnivore if you want, but I'm not, and they think it's stupid, just show them the results, and that's how you convince someone. No argument you can make is going to convince someone. So I guess I have the same question for you. Is your entire family on this same path?
Yes, we're a family of 8, and we've all been carnivore for a little over a year.
Fantastic.
And it's really probably the only reason why it works, because if my older boys or wife, if they were just eating, and we were eating whole food, organic, we weren't eating processed foods, so we were eating healthy, you know, whatever that means, and it wasn't working. And if they were still eating that way, it would be very difficult for me to stay on the straight and narrow, just because, you know, when you go to the fridge and there's all that stuff in there, the beauty of the carnivore diet is you eat till you're satiated, which is good. It's, if you have a bunch of that stuff in your house and you are hungry and you're getting ready to prepare your food, it's very easy to just be like, well, I'll just eat that, you know. And as soon as you start that cycle again, you know, it's a slippery slope.
Yeah. So my wife doesn't have a weight problem, and she's perfectly happy with where she's at in life. And so I go in the house and she'll have the full thing laid out there. She still cooks for the kids. She does these pasta bakes and a sushi bake, and she does all this different stuff. And someone else said it, and I repeated it. It said, here's the most important thing to me. If you want to make this work, you can't say, this is what I'm doing. You have to incorporate it into your identity. You already have things that are your identity. And we all have them that are different things. This is who I am. And like me, I don't curse. I don't have anything against people who do, but I don't. And I incorporated that as my identity a very long time ago. And I just don't. And I don't smoke. And so when I say I am a carnivore, this is who I am. Once I incorporate that, I'm as likely to look at a rock and want to eat it as a piece of bread, because I've set a hard line. That's why, and I say a lot of times, a diet like this is good for someone who's not capable of moderation, or you can't trust your willpower to say, there's a bunch of gray areas that I'll just play in sometimes. Like maybe once or twice a week, I'll have some cake. Like you can't, it just doesn't work. If I have a hard rule, I like when I was vegetarian, that's super hard. I didn't even like vegetables that much. But to say I'm a vegetarian, and it was a line that I did not cross because it was my identity and it was who I was. And so for me, flipping that switch has been fairly easy to do after the first week.
That's great. Yeah, it's a great way to look at it. But yeah, everybody's on board. Now, the 3 older boys, they have their own business and they're gone a lot working and on the road. And if I had to guess, they probably cheat, but they don't do it around me.
So was that a hard sell at home, or did someone else bring it to you, or did you have to go in and be like, guys, we're only eating meat? And they're like, you're crazy, and went on, and you had to come back? Or how'd that happen?
Well, what was great about it, so like I said, I knew about Atkins. I was having all these shoulder problems. I had all the 4 orthopedic surgeons that said that I needed my shoulder replaced. And I said, I'm not doing that. I had the stem cell, and these carnivore videos kept popping up. And our subscribers, they would comment, have you tried carnivore? You tried carnivore for your shoulder. And kept hearing over and over again. And I'm like, my wife was plant-based, you know, and I'm like, hey babe, you know, what do you think? I still was eating meat every meal, you know, and I was only eating 2 meals a day. Like, what do you think about eating more meat? I think you should eat more meat. And it was her. It was Carrie from Homestead How. She started watching his videos. She saw his success, and she came to me and she said, "What do you think if we try this carnivore thing?" And that was, for me, that was an answer to prayer, because it wasn't, this part wasn't going to come from me. And, we're pretty patriarchal, and I'm like the line in the sand, and kind of, if there's ever a decision that needs to be made, like, it falls on my shoulders, and I'm good with that. But I knew that this one wasn't going to be something that I was going to be able to delegate. So it was my wife's idea. Our kids have always really been on board. We live very differently. Um, and we kind of left, like, rural Northeast, and we said we want to live a more simple, slower paced lifestyle, agrarian. We wanted to start our own farm, we wanted to raise animals and all these things. And our kids were really young when we decided to do that, and they were just so on board about it and just jumped in. And then when I, like, 7 years ago, I really went down for the count, and they picked up the slack and basically did it all for the last 5 years. And so, yeah, that's kind of how it happened. It was my wife's idea. She implemented it. Myself and my wife were kind of like super type A, very extreme people. And so it really worked for us because, yeah, we're diving in head first, hardcore, and we're doing it. And then once you do it for 2 weeks and have such positive results, it's very easy to stay the course.
Yep. I mentioned earlier that I already felt like it was a very successful thing for me. I'm like, this is great. I'm just going to do this the rest of my life. And then, like, after 6 months in, which was about 3 weeks ago, all of a sudden it was like, boom, another level. Have you experienced anything like that where, like, I just walked, like the other day I was just in the house and I had my steak on the skillet and it was just standing there. I just started, like, dancing and, like, jumping around. Like, my energy level is just, I just want to move. I can't, I never
So
see that coming.
mine's been a little bit like a S curve. 3 months into carnivore, my energy was like, I almost had so much energy, I felt like I don't even want to go to bed, and it was crazy. And then I kind of uh, went back into, energy wise, I went kind of down a little bit, and I've been trying to, like, fine tune and tweak. And about a couple months ago, I had developed really bad eczema on my elbow, which was so weird. I'm like, here, I'm carnivore. I've been carnivore for like 6 months, and I developed really bad eczema on my elbow. And how I noticed it, it actually cracked and started to bleed. And I'm like, this is so weird, dude. I've never had eczema. I've never had dry skin. And now I got this eczema, and it cracked and it's sore. So that was like 6 months ago. And then last week, I kept an eye on it. I took a picture of it to monitor it and to kind of document it. And last week, I'm like, oh man, it's hurting again. This is so weird. I don't know what this is. Well, now it's almost completely gone. Like, it's not really visible. And so that's been a real weird thing. I think it was oxalate dumping, but I can definitely see that there is a progression that will continue to occur as the body continues to detoxify and as the nutrient dense. I'll tell you one thing. When I eat now, I look at it like I'm taking my vitamins. Like, this is nutritious. Like, this will heal me. You know what I mean? So, like, I'm not just eating it. I'm not eating this because I'm hungry, because really I'm not anymore. I started experimenting with some extended fasting. So currently I'm fasting Mondays and Tuesdays. So I'll do like a 48-hour fast. When it comes time to eat, I'm not really hungry. And the last 2 weeks, I'm like, man, should I do 3 days? But I'm like, well, I know when I eat that meat, it's going to heal something. So that's almost my motivation for eating is like, I know the fasting's really good for me and it's helping me, uh, my mitochondria and all these different things. But I know that when I get that nutrient dense food, it's going to help heal me as well. And I'm just still working through this shoulder thing. But it really is a completely different paradigm when it comes to food.
So can we shift just a little bit and talk about
Sure.
the livestock aspect of it? Because I've bought this 20 acres
Okay.
and I've always lived rurally, but I've never been associated. I've never really had any hand in any kind of farming. I've never had any animals like that. And I've gone through a process of 4 years on the property. I had to learn tractors and equipment and firewood, and I'm running a sawmill, and I'm, taking care of the property and doing all this different stuff. And my next thing is, as a vegetarian, I didn't have as much interest in it, right? But
Yeah.
now, because I was like, is it profitable? Like, why am I doing the cows? Why am I doing
Right.
the chickens if I didn't want the meat? Now I'm buying these whole cows. I'm like, I want some livestock on this property. So that requires fencing and learning. And I'm a little bit, just like I was with all the rest of it, I'm a little bit intimidated by being responsible for this livestock. So I was wondering if you could give me any insights as lessons you've learned doing the same thing.
I can quantitatively tell you without a shadow of a doubt, without a hesitation, everybody, we all participate in this whole ranching farming thing. And everyone in my house will tell you of all the animals, cows are the best conversion. Cows take the least amount of time, and they are, by a factor of 10, the easiest animals to manage. And if you have a good fence and you have good grass or good access to good hay, you are probably, you know, the only thing with cows is a cow is great until it's not. And because we've had dairy cows too. We had a daily milker. And when a cow will be great, but when it goes down, it's going to die within 24 hours. So that's the only scary part with cows. But we used to have Longhorn, and we probably had like 20 head. We lost a smaller bull to a large cat. And then we did have one Longhorn, just she started looking real scrawny, and we wormed her, and she just never made it. So out of our first, let's see, 5 or 6 years of raising cows, we lost one to a predator and we lost one to some kind of random sickness. But other than that, our herd grew every year. Now, since we started carnivore and we want to up the fat intake, we're switching our herd over. We sold off our Longhorns. We're switching our herd over to uh, lowline Hereford bull and then black Angus. And what you'll get is you'll get a baldy. You'll get a black baldy, a black or red baldy. So we're going to be raising baldies. We've had a couple Angus, and now we probably have about 7 heifers and then the Hereford bull. So that's the direction we're going in because you get the higher conversion ratio on the meat and fat. And when you do the cross, they're much more hardy. So the only vaccines, we're not giving our cows any vaccines. Our bull was vaccinated with like a lot of ranchers, even organic ranchers, almost all of them do blackleg and usually blackleg and pneumonia. So the only vaccinations that our cows have had were those initial blackleg and pneumonia, which is very common, but they don't get any other vaccines. And if I can find them unvaccinated, I would get them too. But most of the time, even when you're buying calves, they usually vaccinate them not long after birth.
So right now, as soon as we end this call, I'm going to go out and work on baling hay. I'm baling hay for the first time. So that's a new learning thing, but it's a great step in the process to do before, if it works out that way, to do before getting the animals. So I'll know how and I'll have it already. I'm curious how many acres you have and how many head you have.
So we have the property where our cows are is 25 acres with like an acre pond. There's about 14 grazable acres there. And then we clear cut another 8. So within 2 years, that'll be good pasture. We're still like burning and brush hogging to improve that part. So right now we have like 7 or 8 head.
Because if
And
they're mainly feeding off the land, you need like 3 acres per cow, right?
where we are, you need about 2 acres a cow.
If you have more cows than that per acre than you need, you're going to be feeding a lot.
Lots of hay. Yeah. And the other blessing that we have is our neighbor. He's got about 50 acres over here, and he lets us cut it and keep the hay. So we have a couple really great resources for non-sprayed, super clean hay. And so we would have the ability, but I would like to stay. I'm going to be getting 6 more heifers in September. We also have extra, we have about 20 acres here at the house. And so once this land over here continues to improve, we might rotate them back and forth or something like that. But right now, we do have a great source for hay. So I am going to try to stretch my head count.
So, do you have the whole property open, or do you do like a Stony Ridge or some of those guys who move them from pasture to pasture, or how's your setup?
So our ranch property is cross fenced in the middle. So, and the pond's in the back. So we'll rotate them from front to back. So what we did this year is we kept them in the back, and we had a ton of hay, really good hay. So we were just haying them back there, and we were moving the hay around to help seed the back because that's where we clear cut. We let the front grow up really high. Then we hayed that. And so we'll probably rotate them to the front here in the next couple of weeks. So we do rotate, but we don't intensively graze, because intensively grazing is really great for the land and for the hay, but it does take a lot of input. And we're not really, if I wasn't working a day job, I would absolutely do it. I wouldn't have any, I love working with the cows. I love being out there. One of the mamas just gave birth like 2 days ago. I think the other mom is getting ready to drop. She might even already have. And that's what's great about it. They give birth, and if you don't make it there in a week, you drive it. Oh, look, it really is. It's been a great experience for us. We've had goats, we've had sheep, we have coonies, we've had ducks, we've had guineas, we've had quail, we have lots of chickens, and none of those animals have been remotely close as easy as raising cows.
So here's another question. You do a lot of things to make money. You got a job, you have
Yep.
internet income where you're making money online. And um, I always wonder how anyone can make money as a small farm right now. When you think about the equipment and everything, do you feel like you there's any way that you could be profitable with the cattle part of it? Are you profitable? Or is this
I
a
do think
expensive hobby that you go through so that you can have a high quality meat?
it definitely is for some people. I think to be profitable, you have to be able to directly market to the consumer. And when we do sell a cow, it is very profitable. Um, so I definitely think it's viable. I think it's doable. I don't think it's doable without a way to direct market to your customer. This is the power of social media. And this is also the intrinsic value of this hyperinflation thing. You know, as the meat price gets ridiculous, it makes homegrown meat more viable for everybody. Because now you're like, well, I can pay $1 more or $2 more than I'm paying at Walmart, and I'm probably buying pink slime at Walmart. I don't even know if I'm really getting beef in the ground beef. I can pay a couple of dollars more and shake a farmer's hand. And I do think that it is becoming viable.
When I buy the half cow at a time, I'm paying less for better meat because he gives me a flat price that's the same for hamburger. My hamburger costs more, but my steaks are 40% of what they cost at a grocery
Yep.
store. So I think it's the best deal for the consumer for sure. I guess one of the biggest factors when you think about is it profitable? If the idea is I'm going to buy this massive acreage and then I'm going to buy all the equipment and I'm going to fence it and buy all the cattle, like it's a huge outlay of funds. But if you already live on this property and you already have some equipment, then just putting the cows out there it's a whole different math problem to that, I think.
It is a whole different world. And a lot of it, the Lord just blessed us. Like the ranch property, we just put the word out. It was never on the market. And what happened is that my neighbor has a lot of acres. And I was trying to get him to sell me some of it, you know? And I said, hey, you know, I'm looking to buy some acres. You got any? He was like, I don't, but I know somebody that does, you know? And so he introduced me to his buddy with this 25 acres. And it was just such an incredible deal. It was already cross fence. This guy already had cows there. It was set up for cows. And we bought it and put cows there. We had seen cows. You know, we had never messed with a cow. We had never touched a cow. And I bought this property. We threw like 5 or 6 cows on it. My boys, so my oldest is 19, 16, and 15. And the 19, 16, and 15-year-old, they were 14, 12, and 11. They basically did it. They basically did it all. It was their thing. You know, we have a couple horses, and so they would like to do the cowboy thing. And if you have the fencing and you have the hay, it's pretty much just fence maintenance. You know, it's very, I'm not trying to oversell it, but it's not that difficult. You know, now that's having cows. It's a whole another thing to make it profitable and figure out how you're going to direct market and how you're going to sell it and who's going to process it and all that stuff. But as far as like owning cows, here in Texas, it's a culture. A lot of people almost exclusively have cows for the tax write-off. They want to maintain their ag exemption. And so you have lots of, we have an older neighbor here who's 82. He's incredibly well off. He does not need money. He was very successful. He raises cows. He's 82 years old. And he does have a tractor and he's always out there, but he's 82 years old and he's got 5, 6, 7 head of cattle. You know what I mean? And so if an 82-year-old man can do it and that doesn't even need to do it, he's not doing it for money or anything, he's doing it for pleasure. And we know a lot of people in Texas like that. They raise cows for pleasure. I know people that have Longhorn and they're like, that's my yard art. And they just raise Longhorn just because they like the look of them. And so to raise them, it is pretty simple. It's not complicated.
You know, I've got 5 granddaughters and a grandson already that would love for me to have some horses. But that's another deal. That's an expensive deal. We'll see if I'd like to do it for them, but That'll probably be a
Once
couple
you
years
have,
down the road.
okay, we have the horses. Okay, we have like four or five or four. Um, Once you have the cows and you have the hay, it really isn't that much to have horses. You know what I mean? And they're definitely a luxury animal. I'm not going to try to say they're not, but if you already have the cows and you have the fence, the horses really aren't that expensive.
As you told your story a minute ago, I just was thinking, what a blessing you've given your children while they were at that age to experience a different lifestyle and change their lives.
That was our intention. We had, we'd grown up very normally, government school, um, did all the things you were supposed to do, went to college. Me and my wife, we met in college. We did all the right things, go to school so you can get a good education, so you can get a good job. And we came out the other side and we both worked and whatever and did all that stuff. And I was in the financial field as a financial planner, and I was in there for 11 years, and I saw stuff there, and I said 98% of the perceivable world that we live in is completely synthetic. And all of these quote unquote investments are, for lack of a better term, Ponzi schemes. They are all bubbles inside of bubbles. They're all completely synthetic. And so we sat down. I was like, you know what I want to do? I want to do the exact opposite of this. I want to move to the exact opposite of where we are. I want to live in an exact opposite way. My wife wanted to come home, raise the kids, teach the kids. She wanted to homeschool them. And I'm like, that's what I want to do. We want to observe the masses, do the opposite. And then, I mean, I had a very successful construction company and I had to walk away from it. And the Lord just blessed everything. And as I started building our assets back, I said, you know what we should do? Everybody like saves their money and they make out a will, and son, look, all this is going to be yours when I croak. I'm like, that's really the opposite of how we should do it. What if we could give them a legacy in real time and help them build it? What if we could? So that's why we bought the ranch, and that's why we bought the property next door. Is, look, if you guys love this lifestyle, if this is what you want to do, there's a piece of dirt. You can build a house there. The boys have built a 20 by 40 shop in the backyard. They've done all of our fencing here. And this is how we learn. They'll watch a YouTube video and they do it. The three older boys live in a tiny house in the backyard. They plumbed it. They electrified it. They've done the entire interior. They trimmed it out and they did it. And now they have a construction company and now they're doing it for other people. And it was just learning by observing and doing. And it's been awesome. I wish more people could experience this because it's been a lot of fun.
That's fantastic. And I don't want to make it sound like I don't think you should save for retirement or whatever, but what you said about the Ponzi scheme, I'm like, it's great that your money can compound interest, but I would much rather, like, how much is the value of land going up every day, and hard assets and things that you can see and touch and they can't take away from you, and it can't go to zero because of a bubble like you're talking about. I feel the same way. I think what you've done is awesome. Trying to do the same thing. It's going pretty good, but got to cross that next step and get the cows.
That's it, man. Jump in. You can do it. But here's the thing, man. If you got the equipment, one halfway decent tractor is worth 10 men. One of the best decisions I made when I bought the ranch property, the guy sold me his John Deere tractor. And I had no idea, and I got a great deal on it. And the only thing I wish I'd bought the trailer he had that came with it because it was beautiful. But I kind of cheaped out and didn't buy the trailer. But that tractor has paid for itself 100 times over, and can't nothing's. There's a lot of these people that want to be all like, well, EMP and the Amish and all this stuff. But I'll tell you what, man, you can get a lot of work done with a tractor.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I spent most of the day in mine, and as soon as we're done, I'm going to jump in it again. I enjoy that seat time on the tractor, and it does that. You can transform your property with it.
Yep. Yep. It's powerful. My boys are going to love your channel. They're just super into all things with motors, especially if it's farm related. They've been talking about maybe getting a skid steer or getting another tractor. That's the only bad thing about them watching your channel is they'll probably want to buy a nicer tractor. But
People say that all the time. You're costing me money showing all this equipment.
that's right. But equipment is, if you know how to use it, the boys, the property next door, they cleared it. They rented a backhoe. They rented a forestry mulcher. They cleared the whole thing by themselves, just the three of them. In a matter of like 4 days, they cleared like 14 acres. They did it all themselves.
And I bet it didn't feel like work to them. It was an adventure. They were probably having the time of their lives out there doing that.
It was crazy. Like they would turn the headlights on. I'm like, it's midnight. You guys got to stop. What's wrong with you? Like you've been on that thing all day. It was funny. They love it.
Absolutely.
Well, Brock, this has been great, man. I appreciate you taking the time. I definitely wanted to document your carnivore success because I want to continue to encourage people. I get contacted almost daily, different subscribers that have reached out. One of my really great friends that's a subscriber in South Texas, we posted the Pete video and he texted me. He was like, hey, can you call me? I got a question. And he's an older gentleman. And he was like, I'm going carnivore. And I'm like, man, that's awesome. And I just think it's great to encourage people to try this because I know that they're going to have success on it. And when you can watch people struggle, when you can personally struggle yourself with major health issues and then have success, have a second lease on life, it's powerful stuff. And I know that's why you made your video. You're like a tractor, you're a tractor channel. And you did that carnivore video because you're like, this has helped me. I feel great. I know I can help other people. If it's just planting a seed, giving them an idea, or pushing them over the edge. Like, dude, this is the 10th carnivore video. I just got to do it because I can't see one more person have all the success.
Nothing feels better than when you get a private message or an email that said, I saw what you were doing. I started the week after you did. I've lost 70 pounds. I've lost 50 pounds. I've lost 100 pounds. It's changed my life. Nothing feels better than knowing you've done that for someone else. And what I said when I was closing out my video with Carrie, I think I should start saying this at the beginning, is when I talk about like, don't lead by telling people, lead by showing them a positive example. Say, if you're happy with the results you're getting in life, just keep doing what you're doing. But if you're sick of it and you're not happy, man, just give it a try. It can really change things for you.
Yep. I say anybody can do anything for 2 weeks. Do it for 2 weeks. Be honest about it. Be strict about it because you're going to have the positive impacts of it. Do it for 2 weeks. And I think you're set. I think you're on the road to recovery. And Brock, man, thanks for taking the time. This has been great. Brock, so for everybody on my channel, where can they find you?
Rock Hill Farm, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok. I post every single day, something to do with working outside on this beautiful property.
This guy is a hardcore content creator, y'all. Creates great family-friendly content. I greatly appreciate that, Brock. Thank you. Thank you for creating content that everybody can view. I love it. We appreciate what you're doing. congratulations on your carnivore success, and keep doing what you're doing, man.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for having me on.
All right, y'all. This is a value proposition. So if you love what we're doing, the information we're bringing, go on over to thetexasboys.com. Check us out. We're redesigning, remodeling the website. It should be up. It's going to take about another month, but the existing website is there for y'all. Like, share, subscribe, share the podcast, and we'll see y'all on the next show.